Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm so glad you could join me again today. I appreciate you taking the time and allowing me to come into your home. It's a joy for me every time I can do that, and I thank you for all those people that have sent out emails to me over the last few weeks. We've been kind of not in the studio because of my obligations that I had at the State Fair as the chair of the Fine Arts. So that was where so much of my time was involved over the last few weeks. And for those of you that didn't know that and were sending me the emails wondering how things were going and wondering what was wrong, everything is great, and that's behind me now, and we're on back to the normal life and back to the painting that I love to do so much. So today we're going to start a new painting. We'll probably have a couple of weeks on this, and we'll start in tonight. And you're probably going, well, what are you going to paint? I still don't know. And this often happens when I'm in the studio, and it scares a lot of people, but this happens literally all the time for me in the studio. I just will sit down and I'll grab a paintbrush and just start painting. And so tonight, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab one of my little 1-inch brushes. They are Home Depot specials. They're not very expensive, a couple bucks at most, and I use these a lot, both the 1-inchers as well as the 3-inch. So a lot of people go, oh, it's really expensive to do oil painting, and it doesn't have to be. So I'm just going into some Cad Yellow Bright here, and I should show you first. On the this is not a canvas, this is a birch panel, 16 by 20, and I buy these and cut them down. Most wildlife artists use these just because there's no tooth like you would have with a canvas, so you can do a lot better fur and feathers and fine detail stuff. I like working with it. It's inexpensive, and I like the way the surface feels. So that's what we've got here, is a 16 by 20 birch panel. I just took some house paint. It's kind of a grayish color, and just put that down as a base. You can use gesso, whatever you want to use there. So what are we going to paint? Well, how about we, right across here, we'll just put in a big splash of yellow. And I truly believe, and I say this all the time, that anybody can learn to paint. And it's not so much whether you're planning on selling them, it's whether it's just doing it for fun. And that is why I think everyone should have some sort of a creative outlet, is just to have something in their life that brings them some joy and some happiness, and that's why I paint. Is, yes, I've been fortunate enough to make a living doing it, but if that's not your goal, and you just want to do it to have fun, then that's all that matters. And you know, they're fun just to give away to friends and family, and it's always fun, the reaction that people give you when they get something that's personal that you've made for them. So while I was talking there, I just was kind of switching between yellows and that Cad red. Didn't clean my brush out. In fact, I'm going to go now to my big 3-inch brush, and I'm going to grab some alizarin crimson, put that on it, and just going to bring in some of that across the top here. And I like doing sunsets, and the reason why is they just make you feel good. They just make you feel good. And so many things in our world right now don't make you feel good. And you look at the news and what's going on around the world, and it's pretty scary. So a lot of times just sitting down for me at the easel takes away a lot of those stresses and outside things that just don't feel good to your heart. And I encourage people to take time to do stuff every day, because it's easy to get caught up with all of the negativity and all of the things that destroy our happiness and joys in life. And without taking time and getting away from the craziness of our daily schedules of racing kids back and forth to the soccer games and all of the different practices, and school just started again, and so a lot of people's schedules are going crazy, and it's that time that you spend by yourself doing something that brings you joy that's going to give you the strength to face a lot of the difficulties that come along in life and all of the negative things that happen. So as I was talking there, I grabbed that alizarin crimson, and I've just been going back and forth between the cad yellows and the cad red in there. It's a pretty nice little sky, whether it's the sunrise or sunset, doesn't really matter much. But I like that. It feels good. And as you can see, I haven't used any fancy strokes or any fancy brushes, just a little 3-inch brush and that little 1-inch brush, and I've just been putting the paint down. Let's take and put a little band of red across here, and maybe these are just some foothills maybe that might be there in the background. And if you notice, I'm not killing all as I'm coming across, I'm not killing all of that base color that I had on there. And that's the thing that I think is probably one of the biggest mistakes, is that people end up trying to paint it like a paint by number, and that usually is going to end up with a big mess as far as colors on the canvas. And I'm trying to find my cad yellow that I put away someplace, and I don't know where it went. So we'll just grab a different shade of cad yellow, but that's all right. The more colors that you incorporate into it, it adds a little more layers of interest to it, and it's a little more like it would be in nature. So I've just kind of come back and forth, and now I'm going to just grab some straight purple, and I'm going to take and put this, and that's not purple, that happens to be sap green. I grabbed the wrong pile there. It's all right. We just come back in. Again, happy accidents. So we've got kind of some purples with some sap green in it that's down here in this foreground. And you'll see what we're going to do here in a minute. Maybe what we'll do is do some big trees here, maybe with a little pathway going back towards that sunset. And maybe we'll even throw a couple that's in the background. They're walking along this path. People say, oh, I can't draw people. Well, I'm going to show you some very easy ways to draw some people. And if you notice, I again kept some of that base color in the middle there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and switch back off now to that yellow and that 1-inch brush that I had. let's say that that little path maybe comes along here, and then maybe bends back across. There's lots of ways of doing paths, but this is, again, if you notice, I still am using the same stroke, just back and forth. So if you can paint a fence or paint your house, you can paint this picture. I'm going to grab just a little bit of the burnt sienna on my brush and bring that in just to maybe warm that up just a little bit. It's pretty good. What I want to take and maybe make just some slight indications of some maybe trees that are back there in that middle ground. So I'm picking up my big 3-inch brush again. And I still got that purple on there. And I'm just going to lightly tap this. And by doing that, we're still keeping those tones of the yellows and the oranges there that are popping through, but it's giving just a little indication that there's maybe some shrubs that might be there in that middle ground, or maybe some distant trees there. And again, if you can probably hear it, I'm just basically just tapping the surface, letting the surface take off how much paint it wants. And I often say it, sometimes paintings I think are there. It just needs somebody to facilitate them and to make them come out. A lot of sculptors of the masters used to talk about that they would start in and they would suddenly see a figure appearing. And I think that's kind of neat. A lot of people think that's kind of weird, but us artists, we're all kind of a little kooky. So again, you can hear I'm just tapping away, and I've just kind of put in just a little bit of an indication of a little bit of those bushes that are there. Now let's put in some nice big tall trees in there. So I'm going to grab my script brush, and for those of you that have watched very long know that script brush is what I use a lot for trees, and I never use straight black. I always mix up my own black. I like the richness that it gives me, and so here on the palette I put in some purple, the alizarin crimson, and some of the burnt sienna. And I'm just trying to get this just a real ink-like consistency on that brush. So I've loaded the brush up, and let's just we'll just start putting in some trees here. And in lessons, I have more people that struggle with the script brush, and usually what it is they have a difficult time getting the consistency right for the paint, and it's one of those things that you just have to practice, and eventually you'll get where you understand it and you can feel it when you have the right consistency. Grab a little load up again here. There's lots of ways that you can make these trees. I like doing it this way, especially if I'm doing, even if you're putting in leaves and stuff on it, this is still a nice way to put in limbs that you're seeing through the canopy of the trees. I'm excited. I got a whole new batch of students that are starting here in the next couple of weeks, and I'm always excited to see new students. And in fact, today I was talking to one that's going to start this next week, and she's all excited, but at the same time she's really nervous about it because she's never painted before in her life, and something she's always wanted to try, and was criticized when she was a kid, saying that she couldn't paint, and it had affected her, and I hear that so many times of people that used to draw or used to paint or used to do something creative, and somebody along the way made a comment about what they did, and they instantly thought that they couldn't do it. And I actually, before the fair had started, I had an artist that made a comment that I took real offense to, and it hurt me. She made the comment that people that painted had no drawing skills, and I took real offense to that, because that's what I did a lot of, was pen and inks when I first started, and actually did really well doing that. But even with as confident as I am in what I do, it was still hard to take that criticism. So I bring that up just because so many times our words can destroy, and you don't realize how much of an impact sometimes your words can have. And it may be said in jest or without any really malintent, but it can really impact somebody. So before you open your mouth and say something, just kind of check and make sure that it's something that's going to lift the person up and make them feel better, not destroy them. And just like the negative, the positive, if you say something, you don't know how much a few little words of encouragement can mean to someone. It happens all the time. In fact, I was there at the fair, and there was a lady that came in, and she is a painter, an older lady, and she was with her boyfriend, and they came in, and she was actually purchasing a picture, a photograph from one of the photographers that she wanted to paint. And as she's in the middle of that transaction, I'm talking with her boyfriend, and I said, "Are you an artist yourself?" And he goes, "Oh, no." He said, I don't do anything like that." I said, "Well, what do you do?" And he said, "I build custom engines for show cars." And I said, "Then you are an artist." And he kind of looked at me funny, and I said, "You're taking something that is a blank canvas, metal canvas, and you are creating your own art." And he said, "I had never thought of it, never looked at it like that." And we talked for quite a while there, and I went on talking to some other people, and right before they left, I saw him coming over to me, and he comes up and he goes, I hate to interrupt you, but he said, before I left, he said, "I wanted to shake your hand and thank you for those words." He said, "Probably one of the nicest compliments that anyone has ever given me." And he said, "I'm going to look differently at what I do from now on because of what you just said." And, so those little words of encouragement, here he is probably in his 60s, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he had a worth to what he did. And so encourage people around you. That's what this is all about. Like I said earlier, with our society and all of this stuff that's going on, it's real easy to not feel good about ourselves and to not put praise for the accomplishments and the things that we do in our lives. So as you can see there, after I did some of those limbs, I started coming back in with this big 3-inch brush again, just putting in some of the canopy with the leaves that are up there. And as you're doing this, kind of think about the shape of the trees. And I'm not wanting to kill all of that pretty sky that we've got in there. And we need something down here to make those trees like they're seated. Don't want the trees standing there by themselves. They gotta have some nice grass to sit in. And I want to talk about really quickly some composition here of things that I've done. And I intentionally, if you notice, there's only 2 trees on this side. And I've got 2 over here, but I've got this little one that's kind of here in between them. Normally, you never paint 2s. You do them in 3, 5, 9, 7, whatever. Not anything that's odd numbers. The eye has a tendency to look at it differently and like something's wrong if you do it with just 2. Now I'm going to leave this one with just 2, but I took and made this branch that comes across because it's going to make up for that. And the reason why I did that is because I just don't want to kill all of that background color back behind there. So now we've got kind of a nice little start there. The sap green that I use for the trees, just kind of, it's so dark that you really don't see the green in that much, but you will up close. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab just that little 1-inch brush again, and I'm going to go in to that cad yellow, and I'm just loading up the ends of the bristles. And we're just going to take and just put a few little highlights, maybe where the sun that's coming through there might be catching some of the limbs. Again, this is not something that there would be much of, but there would be a few spots here and there, and it just gives another layer of depth to the painting. And I obviously am working pretty quickly just because of the time restraints, but you know, when you're working in your home, you know, you can take as much time doing this as you would like. It's kind of one of the frustrating parts for me doing this show, because in my studio I'm spending, you know, many tens of hours or more on paintings, and I just don't have the luxury of doing those type of paintings here in the studio, just because it would mean weeks and months worth of painting the same picture, which would just be too much for doing on the show. So all I'm trying to do is just kind of give you just some ideas, maybe of some things that you could do in your own home, in your own studio, that will bring you some joy, maybe some techniques that you go, man, I could do that. And I truly believe that anybody can do this. This is not rocket science, and I just encourage you to, you know, get some brushes and sit down and just start playing. And you know, like this little painting here that we started tonight, we'll just put a big bush down here in the corner. You know, I didn't start out with anything really in mind. I really didn't. I just started painting, and that's the fun part of it, is just to see almost the magic that happens before you as you're putting paint on. Plus, it just feels good. It just feels good. That's a pretty good start for that. I think what we'll do is we'll call that a wrap for tonight, and we'll let that dry, and then next week we'll come back in and we'll develop out maybe the path a little more, and put in our little couple that's walking off into the sunset. And it should be a fun little painting to have. Be a nice one to hang up in your wall in your house to make you feel good about life. Maybe give it away as a Christmas present. I've got Christmas coming up here in a few months, and so be thinking about those things, those little gifts that you can give that are from your heart, things that you've made, make a big difference. Sometimes they're more important than if you had spent a bunch of money on it. So one thing that I wanted to leave you with, as I always do at the end of the day, we talked a little bit about our words and how important they are, both negative as well as positive. Surround yourself by people that encourage you and support you. So many people live in an environment that are negative, and what happens is after a while, it's hard to fight against that negative, and you end up starting to feel more negative yourself. But if you surround yourself by people that are supportive and encouraging, that care about you and want to see you succeed and blessed, you're going to feel that way yourself. I felt so good after spending time for that 11 days at the fair. I met some incredible people, some people that really touched my life in very special ways, and some friendships that I know will end up lifetime friendships. And that's exciting. But they're people that were positive. They're people that they had a passion for arts themselves. Maybe they're not a full-time artist like what I'm doing, but they still love what they do. Maybe the engine builder I was just talking about. But they're people that are positive. And I don't care. I mean, I don't need the notoriety. I don't need the publicity. I just want to encourage people. And that's the reason why I'm doing this show, is that maybe you're sitting there on the couch today and you're feeling kind of down, maybe kind of discouraged. Do something that's creative today. Go out, work in your yard, plant some flowers, or maybe you've got some beads that you used to work on, or maybe you've got a little drawing pad, or maybe just a piece of paper with a pencil. Start doodling. Anything. I think it's important, and if you will do that, you're going to feel a calm and a peace in your heart and in your mind, and it's going to be a positive influence to those around you in your home and in your family and in your workplace. So this week, be creative, be inspired, and I'll see you next week here on Art and Soul. Thank you again.